What's going on, everybody? It's Richard Dickson here, and welcome back to the Richard Dickson Podcast. Now, if you're watching on video, you can realise I'm in a much nicer setup today. I've decided to move from my office in the back of our facility through into our main event space here, so it is a little bit nicer. I'm also using one of these fancy microphones today instead. I've had to move to the side because my height of chair to size of table and microphone ratio isn't quite where I want it to be. If I sat like this, it would be right in front of my face. So today we're coming in with an episode on the reality of business ownership, what it's like to actually be an entrepreneur. I think a lot of the aspects of entrepreneurship are really glamorized a lot of the time, which, by the way, is totally fine. There are loads of glamorizable things about being an entrepreneur. There's loads of great benefits. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom by all means, but I want you people out there who are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs and thinking about starting up a business. You have a business that's maybe struggling a little bit and you're questioning your decision making. I want to try and give you the realistic expectations or the realistic journey that you might have as an entrepreneur from someone who has been there and who has done it. Now, I will preface this by saying I haven't had any huge setbacks as an entrepreneur. I've had worrying times, meetings and partnerships go bad, things not make as much money as I expected. I've had all of these things happen. I have never had a reset back to zero. Now, I don't strictly think that's a bad thing. And this is one of the first points I actually want to talk about, is when you're watching even stuff like this, podcasts from different creators and people you might enjoy in terms of, their entrepreneurial content and stuff. The journey of building, failing, smashing to the ground and building again is this really romanticized, well-enjoyed story, right? People love to hear that about the person, I made 4 or 5 million doing this thing and I lost everything and here's how I kept my head in the game and made it all back, and yeah, whatever. It's like a nice motivational story. But this story is told so often and loved by so many people and promoted on so many podcast shows, interviews, TV, that it gets the new start entrepreneur, young or old, right? Because bear in mind, it's a joke I always make about the name with the Young Entrepreneur Society. I think it's just for young people. You could be 50 and still be a young entrepreneur. You're employed for the last, 34 years. That doesn't strictly mean that you are an old entrepreneur. You've got no predisposed skills to make you more successful at running a business if all you've done is worked. You may have more industry experience, but hey, it's one of those things. So regardless of your age, and you're watching in these kind of interviews, everyone convinces themselves that the real entrepreneurs, the real big success stories, everyone has to reset to zero. And that's never happened to me. Like I touched on earlier on, I'll give you an example. I had a business with a friend that we quite quickly scaled to £11,000-12,000 per month. There wasn't huge time input put into this, and my side of the agreement, which I didn't fail at by any means, but I didn't do it to the best of my ability, caused that business to really stagnate and start to slow down. I think we created that partnership incorrectly. If you've ever watched my YouTube video on partnerships, you will be able to understand where I'm coming from in a bit more detail. Don't want to waste your time on that just now, and there's a whole full video of it on my YouTube channel. You can probably get my YouTube channel link in the show notes, or you might be watching this on YouTube. Hey, it'll be even easier. So we probably created that partnership incorrectly out of fear of failure. So if you go together, it's like, like divide and conquer type stuff. And I got to a point where the excitement of building it to 11-12k a month at that point, 2020, was really fun. And then I just got bored and I wanted to focus on something else. Shiny object syndrome, I call it. Now, that business ultimately failed. It didn't fail in the sense of got all this big massive mountain of debt and we had to liquidate it. The actual physical limited company I still have and I still use for stuff, but what we were operating in that company previously, it failed, and we had a mutual decision. It's still someone I'm really good friends with. We decided, hey, this isn't working, let's shut this business down. Now, that is a failure that I got a lot of lessons from. It taught me a lot of stuff. It was my first business where we really focused on hiring multiple people, and I was absolutely terrible at that. I was a really poor manager, not a bad manager, in the sense of being like, overpowering or expecting too much of people, or being like a kind of an office bully or anything. That's never really been my style. I probably made myself too familiar, done things that was like unprofessional, like becoming too friendly with your staff. There's a whole other topic I could do a full podcast on that on its own, but I just done things wrong, and it taught me a lot of lessons that came forward, and it served me well. Now we have a much bigger team, and I've learned a lot of stuff that I was able to fail in a small way. It didn't really cost me much money. Now, had that business burst into flames and had hundreds of thousands of debt that we were trying so hard to scale it, and we took startup loans out or credit cards to really try and give it our all, and it failed, would I have actually learned any more from that? No. It's just a cooler story for people that listen at home. When you lose everything and it crashes and burns like a phoenix rising from the ashes, you come back with your next business and you dominate, and it's like legendary status for you, but you didn't actually learn any more from that experience than you would have had the business of not burned as badly. You just shut it down and thought, yeah, this isn't really for me, this isn't working anymore, let's close this down and focus on the next thing. It's because people want to hear that story. So understand, so many people go into business, and like I get asked this question so often, like, oh, what was your biggest setback? What was your biggest failure? Like, I've not had a chronic critical failure. And guess what? I'm also not stupid enough to believe that might never happen. And if it does happen, it will be because of my own actions. It will be because I done a bad deal with someone, or I, decided to bring someone into my business who I gave too much autonomy to, and they ruined it. I made a bad decision myself. I invested my money poorly. Regardless of who puts the bullet in the gun, loads it, and pulls the trigger, I was probably the one that provided them the weapon and the ammunition, because it's my business. I have to take accountability and responsibility for everything that happens, good, bad, or indifferent. Very easy to blame other people, justify why it wasn't your fault, but at the end of the day, my name is on the paperwork. It's my signature that signs everything. It's down to me. Win, lose, draw. It's on my head. So I want you guys listening to this or watching this, whatever you're doing, to break away from that idea that every single business owner has to have a massive setback. Like, you take these couple of steps forwards, you get dragged back, and that's almost like the pulling back of the slingshot to ping you away into financial success. It's not how it works. We're in a position now where we have access to so much information, so much training, mentorship, guidance, strategy, that we can circumvent having to have those failures. One of the greatest things you can do is actually learn through the failures of other people. I've had great mentors, friends, advisors in my life who, and by the way, in your youthful stubbornness, at least with me, you don't always listen to everything they say. You hear them tell you stuff and you think, oh yeah, well, that was you, I'm going to go and do this differently. And you still get burnt because you needed to learn that lesson yourself, because you're obnoxious, young, ignorant, stupid, inexperienced. All of those words, I was that guy, right? So I know exactly how that feels. I'm talking about myself to you guys. I'm not talking to you about yourselves, although it probably is you as well, especially if you're a young man. It's just we're the absolute worst for this. You're so confident that you just think nothing can ever go wrong. It's just a complete complex sometimes. But that being said, there's so many massive failures that I've avoided by being around people who have been through tough experiences in their business, essentially, or who have lost a business, or who have had the divorce that is, taking half the portfolio off them, or whatever these terrible situations are. I don't have to go through them to learn about them, right? Like, it's the same thing in school, for example, or any learning environment. I know that if I jump inside a vat of boiling water, I'm probably going to die. Do I need to prove that theory myself by doing it? Absolutely not. Theory is enough for me. People think that theory is a guess, an idea, is a potential. The definition of theory is that there's some type of substantiated evidence to back that thing. Prior to theory, it is an idea, potential, conclusion. Theory is research, studied and backed, right? Now, that doesn't mean it's not completely, it's not fallible whatsoever. Of course it is. But when we get to this point of theory, in theory, I can understand the pain of dealing with that situation. In theory, I can understand what I would have to do had I reached that point. In theory, I can understand the things I don't need to do or shouldn't do or want to avoid to make sure I never end up in that position. So that's the path I'm going to go down so that I do not have to learn that lesson, right? Someone had to be the first person to drown. Someone had to be the first person to burn to death. Someone had to be the first person to go, wonder what happens if I jump off this cliff? Am I going to fly? Am I going to fall? Like, all these things had to be done by someone else to prove that theory. And other people could look on and go, yeah, I'm probably never going to do that now. I have learned that lesson through the actions of someone else. That's exactly what you'll get from advisors, mentors, different people like that. And there will be situations that you have to go through. Not every hardship in business is optional. For example, in 2019, 2020, can't quite remember what year it was. It's the only time it's ever happened to me, thankfully. But I was sued by someone, right? So my only ever legal case, I've never been to court. Thankfully, never went to court. I've never committed like a crime. I'm a pretty clean slate, right? So I got sued, and you get the legal letter through, and it's like the first time seeing this thing, and I'm freaking out. It wasn't for a substantial amount of money. I think it was for somewhere in the region of £10,000, right? But bear in mind, it's 2020. Yeah, I'm making six figures. I've got BMW i8. I've just moved out into my own flat. Yeah, it was a dinky little one-bed flat in Berlin Street, but that's where I lived. And it was basically over a property purchase. And you know the funniest thing? In fact, I'll tell you the funniest thing in a second because it makes this story so much sweeter. I got sued because of this purchase of a property, which we thought we weren't getting what we'd been told, so we pulled out of the deal, and then we got sued for costs associated, and it was just this back and forth palaver. My initial reaction, being the young guy that's, yeah, you might see a more polished version of me now, but the young guy, working class, grown up in like council flats, when you have problems with people, you go and you deal with them. But I mean, I was a workie. Like, I'd done a full apprenticeship. If someone didn't pay me, I was employed by my dad, and I was his only employee. So it's not like I was going to go and like fight my dad in the living room. But if I had seen through my dad, if people don't pay, if people have a problem with you, my dad would just go straight to them and just deal with it like a man. That was my reaction, was to go to the person who sued me, meet them, and I was ready, by the way, so you understand. I was ready to turn up there and argue. I was ready to fist fight. I was ready to do anything because I was this emotional and angry and pissed off about the whole situation. And I reached out to, friend, advisor, mentor, business partner, call him what you want, Paul McFadden, for those of you that know him. And I said to Paul, I was like, Paul, I'm freaking here. Like, it's not so much about the money, albeit we're buying and selling. There wasn't a time, that year was probably the first time I ever seen over £100,000 in my bank. But it wasn't at that point in the year. It was like way, way, way later in that year. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, what do I do here? It's not so much the money. I can have the money. Like, we can get the money together and pay it, like it's no issue. But just the idea of being sued, it was like this attack on my integrity and the stress of it. And this is one of these non-negotiable. I had to go through it. I wasn't choosing to get sued, and I couldn't turn my back and walk away from it. I had to deal with this hardship. It wasn't something that I could learn through the actions of someone else, albeit there could have been stuff I could have managed better in the initial negotiation when potentially buying that asset, to understand if I was definitely getting what I thought I was getting instead of being maybe a bit too eager. So yeah, there's lessons to be learned from top to bottom here. But I met Paul and I'm like, what am I doing? And Paul was like, Richard, you want to be, like a multi-million pound entrepreneur. You want to build big businesses. You want to generate millions in revenue. You want to do amazing things. You're going to get sued a lot. You're going to get legal threats a lot. You're going to be in court at some point. You're going to have to fight your case against someone. You're going to have to pay for the legal fees. Pardon me. You're going to have to do all of these things because you're getting to a point, listen carefully, you're getting to a point where you have something that is worth suing for. Whether that is the money, the reputation, an asset, a woman, whatever it may be, you're now at a point in your life where you're worth suing. You're worth someone going after you because you can pay them in some way, or because they're jealous of something, or because it's a good story, or, I get featured in newspapers reasonably often now. I've had stuff on TV. I've been on Sky Sports, not an athlete, but whatever. I've had all of these different things. So I'm starting to get enough notoriety that it puts enough of a target on my own back that people will go forward and try and do something with that. Now, since that point, we're pretty much 4 years ahead, because it was the start of 2020. Because it was during a lockdown or something like that. It was just a whole palaver of a situation. Now, my initial reaction, being brash and angry, was, I'm not paying him anything. I'm not paying him anything. He can chase himself. No way. I'm going to stand my ground. And by the way, you know what's so funny? I talk about not taking advice from people who haven't done what you want to do, or not taking advice from people who are below you in the command chain. What I mean by that is, it's a very simple kind of setup that I use, and it comes back to like the military basically. If you are a private in the military and you are, you know, in a base, you look out and you see, you know, 500 enemy vehicles coming towards you, do you think by telling the private beside you anything's going to happen? Or do you think you should get a jog on and go and tell the general or the sergeant? I don't quite know the ranking system. But basically, when you have a big problem, you speak it up the way in the command chain. You don't talk to your friends, you don't talk to mum, dad, unless mum and dad are multi 7-8 figure entrepreneurs that can really assist you with this. You don't talk it sideways. And I remember saying to friends at that point, because I was so shocked and I just felt like I needed to speak, so I broke my own values, my own rules, and I was like, guys, you know, sack this guy, I'm not paying him anything. And all my friends were like, yeah, stand up for yourself, don't be bullied. And I said to Paul, I was like, what did I do here? And Paul was like, phone him and offer him money. Settle outside of court if you feel like. I felt I could, you know, get the money back off someone else, and like it was a triangle, this situation. So it was like I pay him and then someone else pays me, and there was going to be a way to recoup some of the funds. And what would have cost me £10,000, I think we settled for something like £4,000, and I managed to get half of that back. It cost me £2,000. Right now, it's not a lot. It's a really, really, really insignificant amount of money, right, for what I was doing at the time, where I was wanting to go. £2,000 was not a lot. It was the situation of being sued. Now, after paying that, and by the way, arguing back and forth with the person, myself and the person that sued me actually became pretty good friends. We had loads of different opportunities we looked at together. The person's got a really impressive portfolio. I won't name them because anyone in the Glasgow property world would probably know them, and he's moves very silently and quietly, but a very kind guy, extremely respectful, just clearly an excellent businessman. And now me, just a couple of years later, I totally understand that situation from his perspective now as well. I totally understand it, and dare I say, if it was me, I would probably do the same, right? Like, I totally get it now, but that young first experience, it was so hard. Now, no legal issues since then, awesome. But I know and accept that they are going to come. Do I know when, for any particular reason? I don't. But I know that they are going to come because I've got something worth suing for now. A brand name, a personal name, money, whatever it may be. It's over IP, it's copyright. Oh, I think you copied this thing that I'm doing, or whatever. Something is going to come. That is a reality of entrepreneurship. You're building something that is worth someone trying to take from you. Whether that be these stories like at the 2008 recession, Royal Bank of Scotland were basically stealing people's property portfolios, right? People with 200-300 properties with Royal Bank of Scotland. Royal Bank of Scotland were like calling all of the mortgages, giving them 60 days to pay off mortgages on 200 or 300 properties, which 99% of people absolutely could not do. And then they were taking all the properties for themselves because they were in such dire financial straits. They were trying to pull in as much, I guess, equity or as much asset value as possible, right? That is a situation whereby people have to learn ultimately a very harsh and a very sore lesson. But these are just things, when you have something that's worth taking, doesn't mean it has to be taken from someone who's beneath you. RBS have certainly got more money than me. They've certainly got more money than probably the people that were taking the portfolios off of. But when you think about it, okay, if they had, however many billions of assets under management, and they could manage to get 40% of that by going into the deepest, darkest terms and conditions of the mortgages and the portfolio lending products to be able to call your mortgage in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Is it a dirty scumbag move? Of course it is. Is it legally applicable as per the terms that you have signed? Of course it is. So they are legally entitled to do it, and they don't have to give you any justification for it either, right? So because you have something worth stealing that you have put your life and soul into, someone's going to come after you. So the reality of being an entrepreneur is that it makes what is already a very competitive existence in the time that we're at just now even more competitive. Now, I'm not going to get into, because I've spoken on this before, the division and competition between genders. As an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship doesn't really discriminate. It's really hard, and life is competitive enough anyway. So if you're looking for any opinions on competitiveness on, the gendering split example, you might want to watch some other YouTube videos of mine. Not that I am saying any particular gender is better, stronger, whatever, but we're all predisposed biologically to do better at certain tasks and potentially have more competitive workplaces, right? But entrepreneurship naturally is going to be competitive, more competitive than you can ever imagine. It is harder to be a profitable, that's a key word, it's hard to be a profitable 7+ figure entrepreneur and to maintain that over maybe not a lifelong period, but to maintain that over 5-10 years than it is to become a professional athlete. Like, it's much more difficult to do that, in my opinion. I don't have stats to back that up. I really don't have stats. But in my opinion, from my experience, knowing plenty of professional athletes, plenty of entrepreneurs, I definitely believe it to be a lot more difficult. You're going to have people that see the ideas that you have. They're going to try and copy your businesses. I literally have people that come along into this room. You can't see how big this room is just now, but we've got like 100-person theatre. These screens behind us, 4 big screens, and then we've got a touch screen here. This is where we do our big, our events in here. And I've had people that have came along to events of mine for just like a lowest cost events for, £47 for 2 days, and they come and learn from me, and they take that information, and 2 weeks later they launch their own course doing the exact same thing. Now, I've got the Stripe screenshots, the testimonials, all the stuff that backs exactly what we do here between Growth Getters, Yes Academy, any of our partner businesses like KB Trade, Discovery Day, and all that kind of stuff. We can prove all of that stuff in what we do. But these people see what you have, and automatically, I've done a video on this as well previously, talking about the reality of what it's like to, sell courses, have a coaching and consulting business, do mentorship. It is not easy. People think you just make a course and people just turn up and start buying it. Feel free to jump on my YouTube and watch that video as well. I feel like I'm taking a lot of the value I could give you guys right now and sending you back off to my YouTube channel. But it will make a lot more sense in that video. People think this stuff is so easy, so they look and they go, oh, Richard's had the holidays and the cars and he's done all that fun stuff. Well, surely if I go and learn what he's doing and just copy and paste and replicate it, even if you do 10% of that, that's still, a couple $100,000. That's awesome. That's life-changing. They go, they try and do it. They can't answer the questions. They can't give the support that people need. They ultimately don't have a bloody clue what they're talking about. So people don't buy anything from them. They don't do mentorship with them. They crash and burn. 99% of educational businesses that I see pop up die within 6 months. The failure rate in courses, consulting and mentorship is, from my experience, higher than any other business out there. People start it with the attitude that you make quick money. They don't make quick money. They crap themselves. They close down the business and they go back to, whatever job they did, or self-employed in some way to try and, maintain the pride of being a business owner, but losing the aspect of, coaching, consulting and all that. It's not that easy. So when you come into starting that first business, that's not me saying you're going to start getting legal troubles and knocks on the door straight away, but starting the business is putting a target on your back because you're putting yourself out there. You're now responsible for everything. And if you fail, and you fail in public, that's going to be so difficult emotionally. I have people, obviously on fake accounts because they're just gimps and can't handle saying something to your face. And the one time someone says something to my face, I did, boom. Not that I'm an advocate for violence, I'm an advocate for protecting yourself, right? So it's just a little joke. Well, it's not a joke, it did happen, but hey-ho. The point I'm making is that people will dig you up for your failures constantly. I get stuff like people calling my stuff, oh, what happened with this relationship? Or why have you sold this car? Are you broke now? Or why do your mum and dad still live in Pollock Shields? Even though Pollock Shields is a great area, it's just the two of them in a massive 3-bed flat with 2 bathrooms. It's huge, right? I don't really get the point, but, oh, why do your mum and dad still live in a flat? Because you could afford to, put them somewhere else. Well, people also have bloody preferences, so it doesn't matter. Like, I offered my mum a job last week. My mum works for the Scottish Government. I said to my mum, I'll pay your salary, come work for us, you only need to do events, you can relax, it's like semi-retirement. And she was like, no, go away, I've got things I want to do in my career. So people have preference. You can't do stuff for everyone, because sometimes people just plainly don't want it. And even if you want to do it for them, you need to respect their decisions. But people will dig you up for what they see as your failures. So when you put yourself out there, especially if you're saying, I am a business owner, in terms of putting your personal name behind something, people are watching. People are waiting to see you fail. The reality is that you're going to get more support from strangers on the internet than you're going to get from your actual real life friends. That's the long and short of it. There are going to be more people that cheer for you who you will never meet in your life, you've never interacted with in any way, you will never have a friendship with. They're going to cheer for you more than your actual real life friends. And real life friends cheering for you when you're there, it doesn't count, it means nothing. Real friends who really want to see you win, they're the ones that stick up for you when you're not around. When people talk badly about you, when people try and run your name through the dirt, oh, I heard from this person that he said this and he does that and blah, blah, blah. The real type of friend steps in and goes, hey, shut up. Like, that's not true. That's one of my boys. That's, I've known her for a long time. You can't say stuff like that. That's a real type of friend. And all too often, for the love of drama and all that kind of stuff, these friends, and the hard thing is you can never point them out yourself. You can never spot them. You don't know until something catastrophic happens. But they're so happy to be there and listen to you and all that kind of stuff. And then when someone else brings you up, they just add that little bit in. They stir the pot. They, give power to the rumour mill. Sadly, it's just psychology, because so many people want to see you do well, but they don't want you to ever do better than them, and I have never been like that. If any of my friends, because we're all business people, like my circle, we're all entrepreneurs, we all talk openly in money. So people will be like, how was your week this week? When one of my friends asked me, how was your week? I'd be like, yeah, mate, it was good. Got some good exercise and blah, blah, blah. And then go straight into financials. Yeah, we done 93,000 this week. We cash collected 73. We kind of want a little higher cash collection rate. Ding, 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 ding. That's how we all talk. We're entrepreneurs. We're business people. And if one of my friends turns around and goes, oh, this week was nuts. We done 225 grand. I don't turn around and go, oh, damn it. 225 grand, we only done, just under 100k committed revenue, that's terrible, and get angry at myself. I go, bro, that's awesome. What did you change this week to do that? If there's something I can steal, something I can pinch there to use my own business, great. But see, if there's not, I'm still going to be proud of my boy. I'm still going to be like, Antonio, Stephen, Paul, Kieran, Cole, whoever. I'm going to be like, yes, man, you've absolutely smoked that. That's dynamite. Like, I'm so proud of you. Well done. And then if someone turns around and goes, oh yeah, well, they said they'd done 200,000 that week, but, they got 10 grand off their grand or whatever crap they want to bring up, and we'd be like, hey, you shut your mouth before I give you a backhander. You're doing my head in, you know what I mean? Talk about my friend like that, go and say it to him and he'll uppercut yourself, right? Like, that is being a real friend. That is being a real friend. And I can't tell you a time in my life where I've not been a real friend, but not everyone, sticks with those kind of guidelines. So when you're starting that business, understand that you're accepting a life of way above average difficulty. It's going to be more competitive. Mentally, it's going to be far, far, far more difficult. Socially, it's going to be difficult. Romantically, it's going to be difficult. You're choosing for every single aspect. Financially, it's going to be difficult, especially for a while. You're actively choosing, and you're betting on it going right, but you're actively choosing to make every single aspect of your life worse for a certain period of time. Now, the payoff can be huge. I would not go back and work a job. I actually would go as far as to say I think I'm unemployable now. I couldn't be managed. I don't do well with reporting to someone, having them tell me what to do. I'm just not very good at it, right? But you are actively choosing to make everything potentially more difficult for yourself. And let's go through those things. Financially, well, yeah, if you're leaving a job and going into a business, you've got no guarantee you're ever going to make any money. You're going to need to buy things, set things up. People can do things really low cost now, different AI systems to build websites, and everything is a lot more accessible now than it was previously. But there is still going to be a degree of financial impact and financial output. So your financial situation is going to be hard at the start, right? Socially and romantically, because I guess romance is a type of social stuff. That is going to be the hardest thing you ever do in your life. Fact. You're going to lose so many friends. Like, when I had a £250, however much it was, I paid for my Skoda Fabia, no door cards, wound down the windows with a set of pliers, I had no radio, I siliconed a Bluetooth speaker to the dashboard of my car and plugged it in via the cigarette lighter just so I could listen to music. Like, I had a girlfriend at the time, and that's the car I used to pick her up in, right? Nice of her to accept that and actually still give me the time of day when I'm, 20 years old or whatever, 21, driving a piece of crap car like that. But the point I'm making, see, when I was that guy and, I'm wearing silicon covered joggies and I'm thinking to myself, I could really do something better in my life. I could go out here and achieve something. I don't need to be this guy forever. Like, there's an opportunity there for me. Everyone's like, yeah, Richard, go for it. We love to see that ambition. Listen to what I'm saying here. They love to see the ambition, but they don't actually want to see the ambition come to fruition. And for the process of fruition to actually bear fruit and change your life, because they will probably be in the exact same spot from when they said, good on you, go, push forward, do amazing stuff. They'll be in the same position when they see you bear those fruits. And they'll sit there and say, oh, wow, I never actually sowed any seeds. Or maybe they did sow seeds, but they didn't tend to the garden. They didn't water them. They didn't take care of what it was they wanted to do, because this stuff takes time, effort, meticulous focus. It takes a degree of, human input that is almost impossible in other human endeavours. It's nearly impossible for you to do this right and to scale properly and to make decent money. I'm not even going to say big money. I don't even think we make big money. Yeah, nice stuff. I've got no kids and whatnot, so it's easier to buy stuff. But like, we have done really good money, but not big money. Some of the people I've been around in my life and hearing what they talk about, and I'm like, whoa, I'm a skint like loser. I've achieved nothing in my life, and not in a self-deprecating sense, like, oh, I've achieved nothing, this is terrible, but in a, whoa, there is a world out here waiting for me to just go and start capturing stuff. Like, I'm not even close to a tenth of my potential, right? But socially, when you're at that startup phase and you've done nothing yet, everyone is on your side. If you're the person sleeping in the office, you're the person, sharing a small room in a 5-bed HMO because it's all you can afford, and you're eating Lidl brand pot noodles every single day, and you're having water with your cereal, well, at whatever struggle point you're at in your life as an entrepreneur, everyone, when they see you like that, it's admirable. Yeah, it's admirable. Oh, I love that. I love that attitude. They see as soon as you're able to leave the HMO and get your first studio flat, and you leave the bike behind and you buy your first car, and you start being able to go out for dinner. I'm not saying you're going to Nobu, but you're able to go for a Nando's a couple of times a week, and you buy a Casio watch and you upgrade your gym membership and you get to go on a couple of holidays. Oh, Mr. Big Shot over here, hope you still have time for us. You piece of shit. You were supporting me 8 months ago. You were telling me to go for it 8 months ago. By the way, just to be clear, I was going to go for it anyway, but I liked the fact that you told me to go for it. So I was encouraged to go for it. And the same person, the same people, the same individuals that were telling me to go for it, they were telling me to push, they were telling me to not give up, to understand that the hard times don't last and blah, 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 all that stuff. Oh, now you're ridiculing me, saying that you think you're not important enough for me and that I am above you now because I've done a little bit better. So actually when you were telling me to do all that stuff, you were fake, you were false, you had no conviction in what you were saying to me. You were just giving me empty words to try and encourage me towards something that you didn't actually want me to achieve anyway. Then when you say something like that, oh, look at you, your attitude has changed. Well, guess what? Great. I am glad that my attitude has changed. And the reason that this relationship, this friendship, this dynamic is not going to work is not because I have changed. It's because you haven't. That's why this isn't going to work. Whether that's, apply that to a friend, apply that to a relationship, whatever it may be, that is fundamentally why it's not going to work. It's not because of us. It's not because of you. You've changed for the better. You've tried to improve your life, and that person motivated you to do so. But then when you actually went and done it, what? They really achieved that thing? They really done that thing? No way. Oh, but what could I have done in that time, and what could I have achieved? All hatred is born of hatred of self. As doubt creeps in, they start to question themselves. Oh, if Richard done that in a year, what could I have done in that time? And they're probably saying that the second year, the third. Now I'm sitting here, approaching 6 years in business, multiple million, over 10 million generated revenue. And they're still sitting talking about 22, 23-year-old me saying, oh, if he could do that, what could I have done? Bro, it's 6 years later. You could have done something. I don't know what it is, but you could have done something. And you haven't. And see, if you'd have still been there with me, once I got to that point, I'd have found a way to try and bring you along with the journey. I'd have helped. I'd have done something, but you were fake. So I didn't. Right? That's reality. And I'm talking in the first person here, but my entrepreneurs out there, you know what I'm talking about. You've been there, you've seen this. It's going to happen with relationships as well. Like, I always wish, not because of a specific individual, but just because it would make your life so much easier. Like, I wish I had met someone and stayed with someone before I had anything. Before I had a single penny. Because obviously I had girlfriends, you're 16, 17, 18, 19, whatever, right? When I had nothing, I'm just a typical electrician. And they don't work. For whatever reason, nothing to do with business or whatnot, they just don't work. Like many relationships, you're young, they don't go right. But you get to this point where you have the AMGs, and I'm not even talking about when you've got the Rolls Royces and the McLarens, right? You've got the AMGs and you've got a flat and you've got a Rolex. I mean, I'm so disenfranchised with what I wear now and the appearance that it gives. I'm wearing a grey Primark t-shirt. It's cost me £4. I'm wearing grey Primark joggies. They cost me £6. I'm wearing Primark socks. You get a few of them for £5-6 quid. I'm wearing Air Max 95s, Primark boxers, and a G-Shock. Like, I don't care about that stuff anymore. But I loved it at the start because I didn't have it. And like, I grew up not having designer stuff and whatnot. Not that I was ever like left without. We always had clothes and whatever we needed, but it wasn't like an abundant environment, which is accurate for most people. So I went through crazy Dior, Amiri, Gucci, Rolexes, Louboutins. Yeah, I've still got like so much of that stuff just in my house, right? But I went through that period, and that attracts a totally different type of person into your life, whether you're male or female. But it's definitely worse for men. I think men naturally take on the role of providership and generally are the highest earning in the household and stuff like that. So it's common for that to happen. And you start to think to yourself, oh, does she like me for me? Does she like me for the stuff that I have? You didn't even question that when you were 19, 20 and you had nothing. You thought, it put no doubt into your head whatsoever because you had nothing for them to want from you. But as you go on now, even 27 years old now, you think to yourself, oh my goodness, like, why is she talking to me? Did she message me because, I've got a nice thing, I've got a car, and not just any car, I've got some nice cars. Is that why she's got in contact with me? Does she actually care about who I am, or is it a purely selfish? Is this a financial exercise? You get to this point where you believe that you can't trust people. So straight away, socially, romantically, you're completely changing the landscape of your life, especially when it pays off. When you get the thing that you actually want, it becomes even harder, right? When you get the money, you get the big team, you get the office, you get the cars, it becomes even more difficult. And socially, you're going to go through this period of extreme loneliness. And what I mean by that is, it's not like I was never sitting in the house, I'm so lonely, I wish I had someone to talk to, right? I'm not one of those people. It is what it is. Like, I signed up for this and that's totally fine. But you'll get to a point where you're just too successful to still get on and still, speak normally and have a friendship with your past friends, whether that be school, college, university, old workplace. But you just won't be successful enough to be friends with the type of people you actually want to associate with. So you go into this purgatory, this limbo, where you talk to your other friends and it almost starts to anger you because you're just like, you guys just don't get it. It's not helping me, because friendships are transactional. There is no friendship is, what's the word? Unconditional. You get something, whether it be, this person's really funny, or they see you as the guy that used to go out and drink all the time, he's hilarious, he'll take 5-6 shots in a row and stay out all night. That is that part of the transaction. So when you change yourself, that's taken away. You're no longer that person anymore. So all friendships are transactional. I will never apologise for saying that. It's just completely true. There's nothing unconditional. That doesn't mean that when that friend goes through a hard time and they're a worse version of yourself, you let them go. You help them, you support them, but ultimately need to support themselves and help themselves, right? So when it pays off, it gets even more difficult. Even more difficult. So we've got financially, romantically, socially, mentally, physically. You'll be spending so much more time that you don't exercise as frequently. You start to eat worse, because you're trying to eat stuff like super, super fast, especially at the start. You're still on a budget. Micro pizzas, Rustler's burgers, like microwave stuff. You're convincing, could you go and buy cheap, healthier stuff and cook it? Yeah, you can, but you're convincing yourself that you don't have the time because you're working on that big project and you need to pay this guy's invoice, but this guy needs to pay you an invoice. You need to get that done to be able to, bill it and actually get the money in to pay that person. So yeah, I'll just go to Lidl and I'll buy a bunch of these microwave burgers and I'll keep them in the fridge, and it's 45 pence a meal and I can fling them in, and that's my life. And that's how I'm choosing to live. And I'm going to stay in this flat eating, 3 or 4 pounds worth of food every day that is nutritionally terrible for me. I'm going to have instant coffee. I'm going to drink water, and I'm going to work. And that's what I'm going to do. And that is what I'm doing by choice, because I think that I can make it pay off. When you read it like that and you say it like that, you sound insane. I sound like a mentalist. I sound nuts. Why the hell would anyone choose to do that? Well, it's because you want more, isn't it? You're rolling the dice. It's the fear of not living up to your potential. It's the fear of not being the ultimate version of yourself. Because realistically, I choose progress over happiness. Does that mean that I'm unhappy every single day? Absolutely not. I'm a really happy person. But I will delay happiness for progress every single day of the week. Because I have people that rely on me. I have people that need me to make this happen. I don't have a choice on how I get to feel sometimes. You just go and get it done. So this glamorized, see the people that have what I call biz-op mentorship things, drop shipping or whatever. Here's how John is making 50 grand a month from, after 90 days and our training and blah, blah. Obviously a lot of what we do is not biz-op stuff. We have the Yes Academy, which has, certified millionaire mentorship and all that kind of stuff where you can go in, you can learn skills and whatnot. And we have multiple members in the Yes Academy 6-figure club. So it's like the 100k club. They've made over 100k using the stuff that we've done at Yes Academy. Just recently, we've had our first couple of elite earners, which is over £1 million using stuff in the Yes Academy. But I don't push the Yes Academy hugely on my social media anymore. A lot of what I do is now business to business with growth getters and with our agency stuff. It's all working with businesses, so we don't get that biz-op stuff that people can use in their ads. Like, here's how we took John, who's a scaffolder, and taught him a skill in 10 minutes, and now he's a millionaire. We don't get to do that stuff. And when I see stuff like that, I'm like, you bullshitters, man. You are, it's not accurate, it's not fair. You can drastically fast track in a way that's almost incomprehensible with mentorship and coaching. You can do stuff that might take you between 5 and 10 years, literally in a year or two. It is totally possible. But when I see some of these BizOp things, is it possible for John, the scaffolder, to learn a new skill and make 100,000, 200,000 inside of his first year? Absolutely. I've seen it happen with people that I've worked with, being able to coach them, consult them. It happens. Now, it's not going to sound as sexy an offer if you say on that, and by the way, it's going to be a super stressful year and you really need to work hard and it's going to be really tough and you're going to lose friends and family members aren't going to understand you and might think you're criminals. That happened to me. Like, that is going to happen, but you're not going to say that in the advert, obviously. But I feel like there's so much of this that I just want people to know. And like, it's not easy. It is hard, but this is what hard feels like. And one of the greatest, simplest quotes ever, Chris Williams from Modern Wisdom, speaking to Alex Hormozy, this is what hard feels like. And see, when you're going through those hard times and you think to yourself, I wrote it on my whiteboard, and I look up, this is what hard feels like. Yeah, this is what hard feels like. It just makes sense. Some people are going to be sitting there going, Richard is repeating himself saying this is what hard feels like about 7 times in a row. What the hell is he talking about? But those who get it, that is going to resonate with you, because this is what hard feels like. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to get harder. And as your business gets bigger, so do the problems, but so do the payoffs as well. So what you need to ask yourself is, are you mentally ready to be that entrepreneur? Are you mentally ready to make those sacrifices? I still am. You might be, you might not be, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because entrepreneurship can be tried by everyone. Entrepreneurship, depending on what your definition of success is, can bring success to everyone. Can everyone be a multi-7-figure, successful, consistent entrepreneur? No. Do I think that everyone can be coached to a point, mentally and skill-wise, that they can become that person? Yes, but not everyone will choose to do that. So understand that you're making an agreement to make your life much more difficult in the event that you may get a payoff from that. It might not be the biggest payoff in the world. Many people I know have had businesses 15, 20 years and they make an average income. But they get to work on their own terms. They don't have to answer to anyone. It is much better in their eyes than having to deal with an employer, for example. Which, me personally, I totally get that. I would rather have, if I had to choose between 2 average incomes, an employed average income or a self-employed average income, I'm going to choose self-employed myself also. I think the benefits in terms of time freedom and being your own boss far outweighs paid holidays and some pension contributions. I think it's much better. But that's not for everyone. Some people just don't get it. Some people, I used to have these arguments with friends all the time years ago. I'd be like, what? Like, why are you not, like, taking your skills and becoming a consultant, becoming self-employed? I just don't want to do that just now. It's just not for me. And I'd be like, you're an idiot. And I would look back and I go, no, it was just them. It was right for them at that point. They may never be that person, and fine. Not everyone is meant to walk this path. Not everyone is able to take that pressure. Not everyone is able to keep up the output that you need to have as an entrepreneur. People see my life and they go, oh, you're on all these holidays and all that. I don't go on a single holiday and not work. I work every single day of the year almost. That is the reality of my life, and I'm fine with it. This is not me complaining. I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I signed up for it knowing what I wanted to do. I am still building. I am still going. I have no reason to slow down. That is the long and short of it for me, and that's how I like my life. I actually prefer working as opposed to sitting around. This is something you'll get as an entrepreneur. You basically sign over your mental peace. You no longer get mental peace because you're constantly thinking to yourself, what have I not done? What have I forgotten? Who's still waiting for a reply? If you're an entrepreneur and you have like 2 or 3 spare hours in the middle of the day, there is nothing more terrifying than that. You don't go, 2 or 3 spare hours, I'm going to jump in the car and go to the spa and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You crap your pants and you go, who's waiting for me? What have I forgotten? Why have I got this free time? I've never got free time. You're at dinner and you're answering phone calls, and that's why having an understanding partner, someone who gets it, is so powerful. It makes such a massive difference. And if you don't have that, I'm not saying chuck them, but it's not going to help you. It might not be right. Not everyone, the same way I'm saying not every person is designed to walk that path themselves, not everyone's designed to be with someone walking that path either. It's their own decision. They might not be able to make that decision themselves, but they will exhibit traits and characteristics that will make the decision clear. It just might be that you need to be the person that pulls the trigger, essentially. So if you want it to be hard, choose business. If you want it to be stressful, choose business. If you want to have less time, choose business. You want to have money worries for a while, choose business. You want to struggle maintaining a relationship with someone, choose business. You want to lose friends, choose business. If you want to have the potential of creating an exceptional life that will pay off generations of your family, that will remove the stresses that you potentially had as a child or your parents had as a child financially, if you want the opportunity for a lifetime of security, you want the opportunity to actually look at yourself in the mirror and feel proud, you want the opportunity to be the best father, best mother possible, not because money allows you to buy cool things, but because you can pay for the best healthcare, you can go to the best school, you can travel the world and show them things that you never had. You can do a whole host of things that outwith being an entrepreneur, including the time freedom that you get as an entrepreneur, being able to move about and go to different places as and when you'd like, then choose business as well. But you need to understand that you're going to have to pay that pound of flesh. This is not a free transaction. It's not something you just get to have a free hit at. It's something that's going to require time, focus, stress, energy, tears, fights. But if it pays off, it's going to come with absolute elation as well. You can look yourself in the mirror. You can put that favourite song of yours on. Maybe even for old time's sake, you'll buy one of those crap super noodles. You buy one of those stinking beef and tomato noodle pots from Lidl. I don't think I ever want to eat another one of those things again. And you'll boil the kettle and you'll sit in your nice house with your nice car outside with your beautiful wife and your beautiful kids, and you'll eat that pot noodle. It will still taste terrible, still taste like cardboard, but you'll go back to being that guy who you once were, who didn't know if it was going to work out, whose friends were nowhere to be seen, who worked alone, went to bed alone, woke up alone, had no idea if this was ever going to work out, but you hedged all your bets on it and it came true. Look at your life now. That's success. That's pride. That's the journey being worth it. But it's not going to be easy. Accept the terms or remain average. That's your choices. Thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.